So we're just going to take advantage of some nice weather that's coming through to take a look at the hives, assess them, see what we've got for winter losses after taking them out of the shed. You'll have to forgive me today. I've got a bit of a runny nose, so we'll have some sniffling in the video. But that's spring, and that's what it does to me. So forgive me for that. And let's just get started here. So those of you who've been watching my videos know that we run double nukes or 2 queen colonies. And so when I'm looking at this one, what I see is this one is actually 4 frames full, and this one is quite small. It's got two frames covered on the inside there. And so I've just got this big scraper, and we'll just help the bees out a little bit by scraping out to the bottoms. And that just cleans things up a little bit. If there's any moisture down there or anything like that, that we can take care of that for them. You'll see my hives are a little bit close together today, and that's because I overestimated the amount of space we had here, so we actually had to end up putting them a little bit closer together than I would have liked. It's got 1 dead out and a 3-framer here. So one of the advantages of running the double nuke system is less bees or less colonies, hive equipment to move around. Though we have 112 colonies, or had 112 colonies, we'll find out how many are dead. The amount of supers we actually have, or the amount of brood boxes we actually have, are 56, because there's 2 colonies in a box, and they'll work their way up. I mean, this one, I'm looking at it, and it's 4 frames and 4.5 frames covered in bees here. So, you know, 4 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now, they'll be double high, and we'll be looking at how we're going to split those. Three and 4. So we ran all double 5-frame nukes this year. This one's actually 2.5 frames, and this one is 4 frames. We've got a 4-frame and a 1-frame here. Often when they come through winter like this, they'll equalize themselves. The bees will jump over and start helping the weaker hive if needed. They like to cover brood, so you give them some brood to cover and they'll cover it. Two 4-framers. So far only one dead out of the ones we've counted. I mean, insurance, that's 10 colonies, we've counted one dead out. Insurance will count that one small one, the one that was 1.5 or 2 frames, either as weak or dead. But about 50% of those will actually develop into a really nice colony. The worst thing about runny noses in a bee suit is you can't wipe it. So you end up, I spoke too soon. It looks like there is some bees on the one side, but that one's pretty much dead there. So that's our second dead out owl count. The other side is really full. Five frames on the other side. That's typically what you'll see when one queen does fail, or one side is starved out or something, is they'll jump over that divider, and that other side will be really strong. So it's not a loss. What you do get is that colony that is super strong, that'll develop into a really nice colony that'll split early, and then you can split it again later. We got 5 strong frames here and 3 frames on the other side. Here we got a 2 frame and a 3 frame. And often those smaller colonies, they're the ones that you want to clean off that bottom board for them. They're a little bit slower to clean up, and the more they can concentrate on recovering after the winter, the better things usually are. Three and a half and 4. Whoops. I've seen some beekeepers have magnets for their hive tools, and I should get one of those. I've actually never lost a hive tool completely. I did lose one for 2 years once, and then I found it. But I tend not to use my pockets. And when I'm doing 2 things at once, I put that hive tool down all the time. You know, if there's a pocket down by my boot, that would make a big difference. Oh, forgot to look at what we're dealing with here. It's a 3 frame and a 2.5 frame. Lots of dead bees on this one side. Yeah, it's dead. And 5 frames on the other side, but they're only covering about 3/4 of the frame, so we'll call it a 3.5, 4 framer. So once again, we lost the queen, but we didn't really lose the bees. We lost some bees, I guess, as they starved out, but they can jump over to the other side, and most of them are actually on the other side, making the other side stronger, so it's good to see. It's got a 5 frame and a 2 frame on this one. Four frame and a 2 frame on this one. Three frame and a 4 frame on this one. Four frame and a 2.5 frame on this one. Two and a half and 3 frames. Kind of gross, I know. It's a 4 frame and a 5 framer. This one's a double 2 framer. 2 frames and 3 frames. Double 3 frame. Got one side dead here, so that'll be our 3rd dead out. And the other side is 3.5 frames. Got 4 frames and 3 frames there. One frame and 2 frames. This one's pretty small. It's not dead yet. I'd call this 2 1-framers. A couple weak ones in a row there. Three frames and 4 frames. Lots of weight here. Two frames and 5 frames. Oh, that will make them real happy. one dead, and one two framers. Those last couple hives, they were less desirable than the other ones. No idea what I had for dead outs now. I lost count, but I'll give you a summary after the video's done and I've analyzed it. So that's about half of my hives that we've gone through now. Two frame and three frame. Frame and dead. Jeez, another dead one. Both dead. Oh, that sucks. Another dead one. And a four framer. Two framers. That's better. 3 frame and a 4.5 framer. Four frame and possibly one, I'll call it, yeah, one. likely dead and just spilling over from the other side. Call that one dead. So you see my push pins here. I had red, yellow, and green in my shed. Red was, most of them stacked 3 high. And the red one would be the bottom of the stack, yellow in the middle and green on the top. So we'll see if there's a correlation at all between what part of the stack they were on, if they were closer to the floor or not. There's a 5 and a 2.5 there. Two 3-framers. Three and 1.5. See that one. It's never a good sign when you say you can't really see it. That side's dead, this side has 1 frame. Another side that's dead and 5 frames on the other side. Two 2-framers. Another 2 2-framers. There's been a stretch of smaller colonies here. frames and 3 frames. Make it 3 frames and 4 frames. Sometimes you just have to bother them and they get bigger. A lot of bees on these bottom boards though. My little experiment or tracking, I mean, it's probably averaging about a half pound of bees on the bottom of every one of these bottom boards. So whatever I'm picking up off the floor in the shed was about half a pound per hive short. So that's a 2 and a 5 frame. One of the nice things about videoing what I'm doing here is I don't need to have somebody or myself marking the hives or writing down with pen and paper or anything like that what's going on here, because I can just document it through video and then look back at it later and make my notes. So I got 3 frames there. And another dead one. Two frames and 5 frames. A lot of these 2 frame and 5 frame ones or 1 frame and 4 frame ones, it's just an unequal balance as to how the bees are sitting in these boxes. So when we go through and equalize them out, we'll take a look at the queens and just see whether the queens are junk or they just had a bad go. On the ones that are smaller, why the bees aren't sticking around on their side. I mean, as soon as there's brood in there, they'll start going. But here's another one, 2 and 5. But we'll equalize them. And a lot of those smaller colonies, I mean, it'll just end up being 3 on each side, which gives them a really good go, because then they operate as a 6 frame colony, which I think for insurance purposes, either 6 or 7 frames considered a strong colony. So we got 3 and 4. And we got to remember that these nukes are operating as a single unit. I mean, they're all clustered together in the middle of the colony. And so they're not necessarily going to act exactly like if they were separated. I mean, they don't have the opportunity to jump over the corner there if they're separated, or the divider if they're separated. Here we got a 4.5 and a dead one. So my thoughts are that they don't behave the same, and maybe the way that they're being judged is not quite fair to the nukes. Here we got a 4 and a 5 frame. This one's really strong. That'll be an early split hive. And interestingly on this one, it was at the top of the stack in the shed. Got 3.5 and a 2 frame here. Got 5 frames and dead. Got 4 frames and 3 frames. Wait a second. Just saying random numbers without even thinking. 4.5 and 4. Teach this accountant how to count. So in one of my prior videos where I was talking about the COVID-19 and its effect on us, I said that nuke sales were kind of slow this year, and shortly after that the calls started coming in, so maybe people are just kind of slow in getting into it. That's dead 1 and 2 frames. Definitely more dead hives on this side of the property than the other one. So I'm nearly, I got a few nukes left, so if anybody is looking for some, I still have a few left, but it looks like we're running fairly short. So if you're in the market for some nukes here in Manitoba, whether you're buying from me or you're buying from somebody else, it might be a good time to start making some phone calls. It's a 3 frame and a 2 frame. I know these bottom boards are quite wet, and some of you will know I was dealing with some moisture issues in the shed again this year, and so we'll have to make some changes on that. But I'm thinking that's the reason why there's a lot more cleaning up to do here, is because sticking to the bottom board and the bees can't move it quite as easily. These ones are kind of crappy. We're looking at about 1 frame a piece. Still some life in there, but chances are we'll just count one of them as dead or something when we do our numbers. Well, that's it. Figure out what our numbers are here, what we're counting as dead, and call it a day.